Chapter 4. Oke was basically a happy person and instinctively liked other people. She had worked with her mother in the garden all her life. She had learned how to feed, water, train, and nurture the plants. She could even sing with the birds. She tackled the nanny job with the same vigor and cheerfulness and soon found it to be a pleasant task. Oke was expected to be with Frances all the time unless the girl was sleeping or spending time with her parents. Then she could do laundry and sewing as needed. Before the week was over, Oke had sufficiently learned her duties. The old nanny retired to her son's home nearby, and Oke was now the nanny for Frances. Herr Schnell traveled constantly, searching for expert silk growers and gardeners, collecting plants, silkworms, and supplies. In a short time, the household consisted of only Mrs. Schnell, Frances, Matsu, and Oke. The four became comfortable companions. Oke's contact with her own family was minimal. Sometimes one of her brothers would bring fresh produce to the Schnell house, and Oke would find a note or small drawing from her mother in the basket. She treasured these small mementos. Toward the end of the month, Herr Schnell returned home to spend time with his wife and daughter. He told of battles waging and fierce fighting far away, yet Oke sensed this could change soon. Herr Schnell said it would only be a matter of days before they must all leave Wakamatsu. On his last day with the family, Herr Schnell led Oke into the garden, away from the ears of his young daughter. He spoke to her clearly and without hesitation. "Oke, you are my daughter's nanny, and as such, I expect you to protect her against all harm. Do you promise to do that?" Oke was so nervous she wondered if she was visibly shaking. She was surprised that he had led her aside to talk to her, for after all, she was only the nanny, and she did understand that it was her job to take care of Frances. She nodded her head. "Yes, Schnell-san." He continued, "I want you to understand the danger that will confront you so that you can be prepared. The Choshu and Satsuma soldiers have pillaged and burned entire towns. They have taken over most of the Takigawa castles, and they are vicious in their attacks and are killing all those who oppose them. Ours is the last Takigawa stronghold. If we lose this battle, the new emperor will not look kindly on those who supported the Takigawa rulers. If we lose this battle, our only hope for survival is to leave the country." He stopped short, placed his hand on his sword handle, gripped it tightly, and then continued. "Okay, I am not saying I will desert Lord Matsudera, but I will be prepared to save my family if our castle falls to the enemy. Takigawa samurai are honorable and fearless, but these so-called imperial soldiers are like oozing mud, willing to smother and destroy everything in their way, even their fellow countrymen." He looked toward the far end of the garden, where Joe and Frances were laughing together, then turned back to Oke, a smile appearing and disappearing quickly. He continued his instructions. "Your journey away from here will be difficult. We are not the only people who are fleeing Wakamatsu, but for my family it will be more dangerous. It is well known that I supplied weapons to Lord Matsudera and pledged my support to him." He glanced quickly at his wife and daughter again, but this time there was no smile as he gave Oke her final instructions. "You will travel to my brother's warehouse in Niigata. If you are stopped by enemy forces and questioned, you must not tell them who my wife and daughter are. You must never forget that their lives and yours depend on what I am telling you. Matsu will guide you, and he will protect all of you. Above all else, you must keep Frances-chan safe." By the time Oke woke up the next morning, Herr Schnell was gone. Soon the rest of the household would leave, also. They waited until it was dark, then left quietly. They took only what was necessary for the journey to Niigata, and only what they could carry: futon, clothes, and food. Matsu wore his swords, the longer one, the katana, he placed in its scabbard at his waist, and the shorter one, the wakizashi, next to it. He could reach either one easily. They traveled for several days, heading west to the coast. They slept outside, hiding wherever they could find shelter. There were checkpoints between villages, but Matsu had often traveled these roads, and he was able to lead his small group around them. They skirted the checkpoints because they did not want to be questioned. It was not customary to talk to strangers, so they did not have to talk to other travelers. They feared only the soldiers. Within the week, they were at the warehouse in Niigata. From there, they took a ship around Honshu to Yokohama. In Yokohama, other members of the tea and silk colony were gathered together in a second warehouse, owned by Herr Schnell's brother, Edward. There was much relief when John Henry Schnell's family arrived. Herr Schnell was still traveling back and forth from Yokohama to Wakamatsu. He found a carpenter who was willing to go to America. He arranged for a doctor and his wife to be part of the group. He gathered tea plants, silkworms, mulberry trees, and other supplies and stored them in the warehouse until it was time to ship them to America. As soon as his family arrived in Yokohama, Herr Schnell returned to Wakamatsu to meet with Lord Matsudera one last time. Matsu traveled with him. They rode off on horseback, and Oke was sure they intended to join forces with the samurai in Aizu. She had overheard Herr Schnell's conversation with Matsu. The imperial soldiers were now at the outskirts of town, and the battles were not going well for the Aizu samurai. She feared for the safety of her family. Herr Schnell was gone for a month. He returned to Yokohama early in November and immediately called everyone together. The news he shared was not good. Usually his voice was loud and forceful, but as soon as he started talking to the workers and gardeners standing in the warehouse, his voice wavered. The people of Wakamatsu, including most of our samurai, are inside the castle, he said. The imperial soldiers have destroyed the town and have pillaged even farther into the whole countryside of Aizu. He stood before them with dented armor and torn clothes, his eyes dull, and he haltingly recounted the horror he had seen. Those of us who remained outside fought as long as we could, but now there is nobody outside the castle except for thousands of enemy soldiers. The Aizu samurai who were fighting outside were killed or have escaped. Some of them will come to America with us. As Oke listened to his words, she felt the weight of silence around her and found it difficult to breathe. What is he saying? Where are my parents, my brothers? She searched the faces of those nearby and found them looking just as despondent as she was. She grasped the little whistle and repeated her father's words over and over again. When life is difficult, hold it and remember family. Remember family. How could she ever forget them? If only she knew where they were and knew they were safe. She would never believe they were not alive. She felt the grip of a small hand inside hers and looked down to see Frances staring up at her face. "Okay?" asked Frances, her little voice so soft Oke could barely hear her. Quickly she leaned down and hugged the child. "It is all right, Frances-chan," she said. "We are going to America. You and your mama and your papa and I are going to America." She smiled at Frances, and she did not let tears fall. "See, Frances-chan? Everyone here is going to America with us, and we will go across the ocean in a very large ship. It will be a wonderful journey." Oke held Frances's hand as she led the child across the room to her mother. For a short moment she remembered a time when her own mother had laughed with her when she was frightened, and then she felt safe. Oke was determined to give the same comfort to Frances. "Arigato. Thank you, Mother," she whispered.